when you're a leader, it's always important to not just being hands-on, but also have a full knowledge of the whole process, right? And understanding how operation runs, how marketing runs, how sales runs, and being able to be that glue to the different areas so we can all dance together. Because in the end, we all need to have the same goals and understand that we're not different teams, but we're all working together. We need to learn how to dance together.
Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and our guest today is Paula Veloza. Paula Veloza is the VP of Commercial Strategy at Vinali Group. Paula plays a crucial role in driving the company's mission to provide top-tier nearshore outsourcing solutions. Vinali Group specializes in helping businesses, particularly law firms, reduce costs and enhance productivity by offering skilled professionals who work in the same time zone as their clients. Their services include providing intake associates, paralegals, legal assistants, contract negotiators, and more, ensuring seamless support and improved efficiency in legal operations. Now, the reason that I am excited for our conversation with Paula is I'm very passionate about using inexpensive labor that's available to us. And everyone's familiar with labor in the Philippines and labor in India and stuff like that. But it gets a bad rap sometimes. Sometimes it's like, okay, they're working at night at my night when I need them working during my day. And if they're working during my day, then they're working the night shift. Is that really humane? Is that really the way I want my employees to operate? On top of that, there's language issues, stuff like that. So I'm all for any conversation where we're going to discuss other solutions that can still insert inexpensive staff into your repertoire to really enhance the client delivery that you're creating. To make you more efficient, to make you more on time, to make you more proactive, whatever it's going to do, that it's going to boost what's available to you. So, Paula, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, Paula, what I like to do when I have a guest on the show is let's just talk about you for a moment. What's your story? How did you get to Vinali Group and doing this that you're doing with staffing solutions that we're going to talk about? VP of Commercial Strategy. So how'd you get there? What's your backstory?
Well, first of all, thank you, thank you for this space. And it's a very interesting story. I started with them almost like 4 years ago. And in the beginning, we were a staffing company just working in the States. And I could say like we were our first client in nearshoring. So I was living back in Colombia. And that's when our CEO, he decided to, give it a try. Let's see what's in Colombia. Let's hire some professionals there and give it a try. And I was in that first wave. And I actually started being like part-time a recruiter with no much experience in recruitment. But we got training, we got an amazing team. And from there, we just, we were growing and we started scaling our team. Then I just kept moving like to junior, senior recruiter, project manager, account manager, then BPO director. And nowadays I had the opportunity to be the VP of Commercial Strategy, taking care of our marketing team, our sales team. And, I've always thought that when you're a leader, it's always important to not just being hands-on, but also have a full knowledge of the whole process, right? And understanding how operation runs, how marketing runs, how sales runs, and being able to be that glue to the different areas so we can all dance together. Because in the end, we all need to have the same goals and understand that we're not different teams, but we're all working together, and we need to learn how to dance, you know, together.
So, where were you living when you first got hired there?
I was in Bogota, Colombia, the capital.
Okay. And are you still in Colombia?
Well, currently, due to, different meetings, clients, business opportunities, in Orlando, Florida. This is our headquarter, actually. So we're always traveling back and forth between Orlando and Bogota, and different cities as well, visiting our clients, conferences, etc.
Yeah, I love your story because a lot of our listeners and people that I run into when and when I have law firm owners who are in my programs or whatever, and they share with me that, like, okay, I hired an offshore VA, and it was an awful experience. They weren't good. We didn't, it didn't work, right? I'm not doing that. And that's something that I often hear. And what I tell them is did you treat that person as if you were hiring a regular employee on your staff? And the answer is usually no. Usually they're like, for some reason, we just think of these people as just like an extra tool that we're going to put into our toolbox. But instead, we have to view that person as being somebody who I got to find the culture fit. I got to find the core values match. I got to find that they're in tune with my mission statement. They have to be the right person for the seat that I'm trying to fill. And if I go through and check all those boxes that like I would for any other employee I'm going to hire, then they're much more likely to be able to be inserted into my organization and to grow with my business. Um, this is what's possible. You're proof of what's possible. You can have somebody that you hire in Colombia and they end up coming and working in your office in the US. Like that's definitely on the possibility of the trajectory of that journey. But more importantly, you stepped into role after role after role where you were elevated to something that was more significant within the organization. And I think that we're we tend to be very short-sighted and not realize like we're bringing somebody in who's at the lowest level of employment in my firm, but that person can rise, they can elevate, they can learn, and they can excel. And who's to say that they're going to do any worse than somebody
Right.
who's a stateside employee? Usually, often they'll do better if you did a good job in the hiring process. So I really love your story because it's proof of what's possible. It's proof that it's not just, I'm just going to hire a low cost employee to do some mundane tasks, and that's going to be the end of it. Um,
Right.
Now, you mentioned a term nearshore, which was new to me. I never heard of nearshore before, and I've been around the block quite a bit. And you explained in the green room before we started the difference between nearshore and offshore. So, can you just explain that difference to me? What does nearshore mean, and how's it different or better than offshore?
Absolutely. So yeah, there's outsourcing, right? That's the main concept. But outsourcing is split it in two. So you can have offshore or you can have nearshore. Offshore is anything that is not in your same time zone. So if you're in the States, anything in India, the Philippines, Malaysia, that's offshore, right? Nearshore would be anything in your same continent, your same time zone. So in our case, for example, Colombia would be nearshore to the United States, where any country in LATAM would be nearshore for the United States. Um, yeah, that's like the main difference.
Now, what's your experience been with individuals in Colombia or in Honduras or anything like that? Like, eh, how's the English language for those people? Is English is their second language, presumably, right? So, um, is that something that people should need to be concerned about when looking for staff in these regions?
It's very interesting you're asking that question, because, you know, any country in Latam, like our first language is Spanish, right? And it's not because I'm Colombian, but I could say that we have the best Spanish, speaking wise. So that's an advantage if you, for example, the Hispanic um, population in the United States is growing every single day. So that's an opportunity to gain more market for any company, right? Any business that wants to grow. Like they need to contemplate that there's English speakers, Spanish speakers. So just knowing that you can have access to any bilingual person can communicate in English and Spanish. That's right off the bat, that's something good. Now, regarding English, we are cultures that even though we have our Spanish, we have our own things, we grow watching American TV shows, listening to English music, traveling to the United States back and forth, like Disney or New York or LA, well, different cities. So in terms of culture, we're very like, there's a strong affinity there. And our English, we have the opportunity to practice, to learn the language and to practice since we're in preschool, middle school, like even to graduate from college or university, like you need to have your second language, your English, in a very good level. There's different categories. So A1 is like the most basic one, like you barely can speak or understand. And C2 is when you're native, right? So everyone, for example, to graduate from college, they need to be B2, C1. That is like a good level that you can communicate, that there's no language barrier there. The accent is not strong if you compare to any other accents that can be, stronger. And what I was saying, like the Hispanic population in the United States has been growing so much that I could say you're familiar with our accent when you go to the supermarket. The person who's there, they're Hispanics, and you understand their accent, but it's okay. You're familiar with it, so it has never been an issue. And we're very well educated countries. So in some cases, I could say we're the education, and I'm gonna speak right now just in terms of Colombia. The education there is so good, and the level we have is one of the best in Latam. However, the opportunities are not always there. And that's the main reason that we say this is an opportunity for business to grow and to save costs and improve productivity and many other things. However, it's also providing the opportunity to a professional in a country like Colombia that they have even the master degrees, but they're working at a call center because they don't have the opportunity to be working for a law firm or for any other company. So there's a lack of opportunities, but not a lack of talent pool and educated talent pool. And to have access to that opportunity to work for an American company, it's a once in a lifetime kind of chance that makes the commitment and the responsibility of that person being the highest. Once they have the chance, it's like, I'm gonna crush it. I'm not gonna let this person down, and I just want to grow. And I'm gonna take this company as my own. Like I'm just gonna work so hard that I want to succeed, and I want this business to succeed. So that's the mentality, and that's what we have seen from our experience and the feedback we've gotten as well from different people.
Now, my experience working with a number of companies like yours is that most of these individuals are coming in they're educated. Often they have a college degree, but they're not coming in with experience in the specific role that they're getting hired for. So unlike typically, and when I'm hiring stateside, I might say, I I am um, uh, I have a position available for a legal assistant,
Mhm.
and they need, 2 years of experience as a legal assistant in this practice area, and they need to have this skill set and, and
Mhm.
whatnot, right? So that's how typically we would look for somebody. When it comes to looking for these, offshore or nearshore individuals, we kind of throw all that by the wayside, and we're like, okay, just give me somebody who can speak English and has a head on their shoulders, and maybe is in alignment with my core values. Maybe we do that, but we're basically starting at ground zero and needing to train them on everything about our systems, our processes, and what it is that they need to do,
Yeah.
with no experience going in, which is, I mean, for the tasks, the mundane tasks that we hand to the lowest cost individual, sometimes that's perfectly fine. But it would be so awesome if people can be inserted into an organization with experience, right? And experience for that role. That would make it even more valuable. So what has your experience been in regards to this? Does that exist? Is there an opportunity to combine the nearshore individual who's hungry and motivated, and is, and is a discounted cost to the business, and at the same time enters as an experienced person within their field?
Yeah, I think in what we have seen is it depends on what approach you have in terms of, hiring someone um offshore, right? Or nearshore. Um, it's easy to say in what you're saying. I'll just hire a VA. I don't know who she is or who he is. I just know that person is going to be helping me with some administrative tasks, right? Um, but what I've seen is you can do it better as as the person hiring, and you can be picky, and you can say, hey, I just I don't want someone who can just help me with administrative tasks. I want someone who can do this and that, who might have experience with this and other thing, you know. And to say if it's not this fit, if it's not this person with this experience, and I think it's important to take into account that it's not just about the professional experience, but it's also the soft skills of the person, right? What's a personality? Because that's a person you will be working with every single day. So you need to get along with them, right? And that's something I always mention is like, tell me what is the ideal person for you, professionally speaking, like the experience, but also in terms of personality. Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Do you want a talker, or do you want someone who can barely, say something? And based on that is that you're gonna find, or in this case, we can provide that person. So this is about like customizing the service. This is not just like, just give me whoever and let's see if it works. No, we want to ensure this is going to work because this is your business. And as you don't play with your business, we don't want to play with that, like with your business and with the people as well. So this is about saying, how do you want that person? What are the main requirements? What are the preferred bullet points there? And let's find the right professional. Let's interview them and tell me if you fall in love with one of them, let's move forward. And that's the main goal. So, to always find the right fit for your company and for yourself so everything can work smoothly once they start, right? Um, you know, for it depends on the position that would be working. if it's a legal assistant or just an executive assistant, like it depends, and the experience would depend. Sometimes we can find the experience you're looking for as a business owner. And if, for example, there's not that specific experience in the market, training is something we can always do, right? And to document that training, and most of companies, sometimes they have SOPs, they have training material. That's something they can share with their hires, and they're quick learners. So that it has never been an issue, and that's something that when you give it a try to hire someone remotely, you can always provide that information, and in a heartbeat, they're gonna understand the business and they're gonna start like producing.
Yeah, so let's go move past the hiring phase. So I bring somebody on. Um, what are some tips that you could give our listeners of stuff that they could do in the first 30 or 90 days that they have somebody on board to really set them up for success? Like, what are some things that we can do? Give me some um, insight to what that looks like, and the things. I mean, sometimes there are things that we just don't think of, but being in the business, you have an inside track, and you can be like, all right, listen, in the first 30 days, you should make sure to do X, Y, Z, or whatever it is, right? So what are some of those things that we should be doing after we hire somebody to really set them up for success and to hit the ground running?
I think the most important one is communication. Communication's key. And as long as you communicate with that person in terms of expectations, in terms of, I always say, even if they come with the experience, they need to learn your business. Like, how do you run your business internally, right? How do you like things? Because we like things in different ways, right? Same outcome, but different ways to get there. So I always say, like, it's important to share those things with them, so they understand the expectations, they understand what's the flow internally in the company, and understand that there's always a learning process, and that like the first week there's going to be training, there's everything's going to be a little bit slower, right? But the second week is going to be faster, and the third week is going to be better, and a month later you're going to start seeing, like, oh my gosh, okay, this is working out, right? I can see the efficiency, I can see this person is very proactive. So communication and the understanding of that learning process is very, very important to guarantee the success of the strategy or the process. I would say those are the main ones. Other than that is providing the right tools, right, the right information, and working together with your whole team. This is not about replacing anyone internally. This is about, hey, how can you transfer some operational tasks that someone in your team stateside is having, that is taking so much time away from them, and how can another person that is lower cost and available, how can they help, and how can they do it, how they can take care of that operational part, so your person is stateside can focus on more strategic things, right? Or more valuable things that they can do here. And that the operational part is being done by another person, but it's cheaper for you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, communication is important. Also, giving them the right tools for the job is another one. One thing that I think is important is to really give clarity around what the expectation is for their deliverable. Like, what are they responsible to accomplish? And putting some real numbers around it. So, if there's a certain task that they're doing and they need to do a certain quantity of that task, you're setting that expectation of what that is, and also checking in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. How are they doing? And giving feedback and allowing them to become better at what they do by providing that feedback. Often we just kind of let things coast along and we let something bother us, but we don't say anything. And it festers, right? It becomes worse because we're just letting it sit there. And you have the ability to get in front of it, get ahead of it by just communicating that. There's a great book called Radical Candor by Kim Scott, and that book she talks about this idea of, you know, being upfront with your staff and letting them know that they and how to properly tell them that they did something wrong or something is not up to the quality that you want, in a way that motivates them to do better the next time, allows them to fix it, gives them an opportunity to step into the best version of themselves instead of you just saying, this is not working. I'm just going to do it myself. And that's really a trap that a lot of us fall into is when, we try to outsource something to somebody, we try to hand off a task. And this is nothing to do with nearshore or offshore. This is, this could be just anybody. Like I hire an attorney, I could have the same problem. The attorney just doesn't do it the way that I wanted it done. So at that juncture, we have two options. One is I take it back and do it myself. And the other is we take the time and we show them how we want it. We show them what the problem is. We show them why our way is the way that we want to do it, so that they can have an opportunity the next time to rise up and do better.
Exactly. It's about giving them the opportunity to improve. Correct.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
What is the cost of nearshore and how does that compare to offshore? Is it more expensive to get nearshore versus offshore? Like, why would somebody want one over the other?
The cost of nearshoring is have the cost that you would have in the United States. You could say it's a little bit higher than offshoring, a cost in India and the Philippines. However, the quality of what you're getting, and not just the quality, because you can also get quality offshoring, right? But it is the access to those professionals in your same time zone, working in a beautiful facility. They're working in an office, they're not working remotely, God knows where. And also to have the the benefit or the opportunity to say I can travel there or they can come to the country in 3 hours they'll be here, or if you want to go to Colombia, like in 3 hours I'll be there. It's not like a 12-16 hour flight. Your team can go there to train them, so you could say it's a little bit higher than that, than offshoring. However, there's a lot of benefits that you would see, and just the fact of having them in your same time zone and the quality of their English, the quality of the work, it's something that you're paying more for to get something, like top notch kind of service.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that your model is to have an office where all these people report to work in. Most businesses that are placing these people, they're working from home. And we deal with stuff like power outages and internet outages and stuff like that. Is that something that, I mean, your facility gives protection over? Do you have a generator? Do you have like backup internet lines? Like, is that a selling point for why somebody should hire somebody through you versus any of the other options out there?
I would say yes. And our CEO, he's American, and he's like, as an American, I want to ensure that everything is perfect because everything needs to have all the right tools to be productive, right? So we've seen that when we all work together in the same space, that's when magic happens. That's when you start building culture, right? That's another like additional point. Like everything is not just the salary for the people, but it's also culture. Are they taking care of me? How are they treating me? And that's part of that retention part that you're not going to see a high turnover with them, right? And I know that's a different point, but it's important to mention that that having everyone working in the same office in the same space helps that collaboration side, and it helps us to also be that extension of you and say, hey, anything you need, I'll be your eyes in the office. You're gonna have like there's an IT team that is always available to help any issues with their laptop, with Wi-Fi, with passwords, whatever they need. They have an IT team. Or there's any HR situation, well, there's an HR team as well. Or they need any communication with you, there's an account manager always supporting both sides. So when we started this, we thought about it and we said, we need to have them all together because this is a professional environment and this is a professional service. So what do we need to do to guarantee that part? So this is something to ensure our clients that they're being controlled, they're being supervised, but this is also for our people, the consultants, to say this is a real job. This is not just me working for a company somewhere in the United States. No, this is legit. This is someone who's taking care of me, that I'm getting all the benefits I want, but I've been treated right, and I can see how I can grow, and I have the opportunity to, speak in English, learn more, gain more experience in different areas, et cetera, et cetera. So to have the facilities there has been amazing. Has been amazing to see how the culture just gets stronger and stronger. And actually, this background is one of our part of our office. We have this beautiful view with the Andes, the Andes mountain. Yeah, I think it's a huge plus
Awesome.
when hiring people. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Paula, this has been really interesting. Great conversation. As we draw to a close here, do you want to share how people can learn more about you, perhaps take next steps in exploring what it might look like to work with Vinali Group?
Absolutely. So, you can always visit vinaligroup.com. That's our website. Any communication you need there. And that's like the best way. Or on our social media, you can also find Vinali Group, and there you can see like different posts we have with our team, with our clients, different interviews. So this is a great opportunity for anyone who wants to take advantage of saving cost with amazing professionals, and keep growing and scaling their business, thinking in how can I be more efficient with my time, and how can I focus on, growing, gaining more market and the strategic side of this instead of the operational side.
Awesome. Love it. Folks, we're going to link that up in the show notes so that you don't need to remember anything wherever you are. You go to profitwithlaw.com. You can access the show notes of this episode. It's also in your podcast player right below. Right below this episode should be all of the resources that you need. If this is your first time listening to the show, we'd love to have you back. We have over 400 episodes for you to binge on and go back and listen to. Also, we are here every Thursday with a brand new episode. We're looking forward to releasing our next one in 1 week. So stay tuned. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you get notified every time we release that new episode. Take care. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.